Kid's a wizard because everything he created on the Knight Rider is now true. The cars talk, the cars park themselves, the cars will drive themselves. They can do anything you want them to do, and probably, in the next 10 years, you're going to be able to go outside.
Knight Rider car was only $1, but there was a rule. After the show was over, every car had to be destroyed. No one knew why except Hasselhoff was also dealing with his own problems at the same time. Started around these times. Things got so bad that his daughter later filmed him drunk on the floor. The show looked great on TV, but things were falling apart behind the scenes. Hasselhoff kept these secrets for 40 years. David Hasselhoff was born on July 17, 1952, in Baltimore, Maryland. His family was very strict Roman Catholic, but his father, Joseph, ran a business, and his mother, Dolores, ran the household. David was the only boy in a family of 4 sisters. He grew up in German. His great-great-grandmother was from a town near Bremen in 1865. As a child, that German connection didn't mean anything to him. But as an adult, it would make him a hero in other countries, but his childhood was anything but that. Stable. Because his dad worked for Brinks, the family moved around a lot. First, security in Baltimore, then in Jacksonville, Florida, and finally in Atlanta. David never stayed in Illinois long enough to feel at home. He was always shy. He had to learn how to adapt all over again every time he had to start over. Meeting new people and learning how to fit in and do well are likely what made him want to become an actor. On stage, he could finally be someone who stayed in one place that day. He was only 7 years old. He was cast in a local Peter Pan, where he plays a crew member on Captain Hook's ship. The shy boy lit up on stage. He wasn't scared, he felt free. That one role changed everything. He fell in love with theater and started taking acting classes. Lessons in singing and dancing. He told everyone that his only dream was to be on Broadway. After many years, he did come back to Peter Pan, but this time as Captain Hook. Everywhere in the UK from 2010 to 2017. David was a teenager when the family finally moved to LaGrange, Illinois. He did everything at Lyons Township High School. He wasn't just another student, he was in charge of he was the captain of the volleyball team and competed on the speech team. Acted in school plays and even played the lead in the Fantastics. When he graduated in 1970, he already had a set of skills that most actors need. Spend years looking for confidence, charisma, physical beauty, and he tried Oakland University in Michigan after high school, but soon he changed schools and went to the California Institute of the Arts, which Walt Disney started in 1961. He moved to California at the right time and is now at CalArts. It only took him 2 years to learn how to control his voice, run the stage, and switch between singing and dancing. After high school, he got his first big break. It came as a surprise. In 1974, he agreed to star in a movie in order to get his Screen Actors Guild card. The name of his character is Boner, and the movie is called Revenge of the Cheerleaders. He didn't think anyone would see it, but 2 years later, the movie came out with the "If you saw them with their pants down." It was embarrassing, but it got him. With his SAG card, he was officially an actor who could work. Then came the soap opera in 1975. He was cast as Dr. William Snapper Foster Jr. on The Young and the Restless. He was on the show for 6 years and filmed more than 850 episodes. Was very responsible, the man of the family, and his fans loved him. When he quit the show in 1982, the creator didn't just write him off, he had grown so big that he got rid of the whole Foster family. Later that year, NBC President Brandon Tartikoff personally changed the game. Chose him to be in Knight Rider. Tartikoff saw something that other people didn't. The show that put David with a talking car was a mix of kindness and strength. A boy named Kit became famous all over the world. It wasn't just action. It was about and that picture of the clean-cut tech-savvy hero saving lives instead of taking them. It stuck and made David famous in Germany and a star in the US. There was a strange side trip before Knight Rider. In 1979, he was in Star Crash, an Italian sci-fi B-movie that tried to make money off of Star Wars. David played it was silly, but he gave lines like, "3 minutes are enough, father," as a prince in glowing armor. He gave it his all. The movie didn't do well, but it showed he was ready to take chances. David Hasselhoff didn't just play Knight Rider, he lived it. But for a long time before getting in Kit's car, one man, Glenn A., had a crazy idea. He said Michael Knight wanted to mix a cowboy story with a high-tech car. NBC was like the Lone Ranger, but instead of a horse he rode a Trans Am. They liked the idea. Their president, Brandon Tartikoff, had said there weren't any. Larson thought, what if the car was the star, as there were already too many good male actors. Premiered on TV on September 26, 1982, and ran until April 4, 1983. 1986, Flag the Foundation for Law and Government backed it. It was a fake. Larson had already made a lot of money with the company that sent Knight on secret missions. Knight Rider, along with Magnum PY and Battlestar Galactica, became one of his biggest hits at the right time. The carob-crazed 80s crowd couldn't get enough of it, but it wasn't easy to build KIT behind the scenes. It was hard to get Trans Ams. At first, the team only had one designer, Michael. When Sheffy made it into the first KIT, things went well for them. A train accident destroyed a shipment. GM couldn't sell 10 brand new Trans Ams, so they gave them to the show. For only $1 each. The catch? Fans had to destroy every car after filming was over. Still think that's a sin? Each kit was improved to fit a different job. Some were made just for stunts and had light steel bodies. Some had drivers hidden in the back seat for jumps. The hero car was only used for close-ups and shots of Hasselhoff. Each car cost around $18,000 to make. Changes by season 3, they gave Kit new wings and a scoop to make it stand out from the thousands of copies made by fans that started popping up. Kit was amazing on screen. It had a shell that could stop bullets. It could jump 40 feet in the air with turbo boost and even 800 degrees heat. And go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 0.2 seconds. The red scanner light on its eye was a hood called the anamorphic equalizer, which was based on HAL from 2001: Odyssey in Space. It could see Michael's vital signs on an X-ray watch, and even in order to be more stealthy. It took real car companies years to catch up. Ford added seats that monitor your heart rate. European trucks came with standard collision avoidance systems by 2015, but it seemed like science fiction. Kit was worth $11.4 at the time. Million, but each one actually cost more like $100,000, but fans didn't care. Kids wanted toys, and teens wanted games. People wanted to watch it with their kids, but critics didn't like it. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 21% rating. 35%, but people saw it and liked it anyway. By 1983, no matter what the reviews said, Kit toys were the best Christmas present. Said that Knight Rider was a big deal in pop culture when it ended in 1986. It seemed sudden, but the legend never really ended. It was shown in a huge number of NBC tried to bring it back in 2008 but failed. It was a rerun that people loved. They missed what made the first one great, and no one felt that. He saw Knight Rider as more than just another job. He said he would spend the rest of his life in that show if he could. Fans often came up to he thanked him and said, "You helped me through a hard time." Getting all the attention from Baywatch because he said Knight Rider was about saving lives, about giving people hope. He said it was the most important thing he did. On screen, Hasselhoff may have looked like the perfect action hero, but behind the wheel of Knight Rider, things were very different. From smooth, what the audience didn't see was how hard, dangerous, and behind the scenes, the show was sometimes very sad. It all began with Knight Rider used 4 different sets for the cars. One was the hero car. It comes with voice panels, blinking lights, and a polished look for close-ups. Then came stunt cars that could handle sharp turns and chase scenes even if the jump cars that came next were mostly stripped down on the inside. To survive huge air stunts, fiberglass bodies and light parts are used. Finally, the shells were made to be hollow wrecks that were only meant to crash. Jack Gill, the stunt coordinator, would lie flat after the trick of KITT driving on its own. Inside the passenger footwell, out of sight, and steering while he was on his back. There were only 3 Trans Ams at first, but in 1983, everything changed. When a train full of Trans Ams derailed, GM sold 10 of them to the show for $1 each. Every single one of them had to be thrown away after filming, and they were. The stunts weren't just flashy, they were also brutal. In one of the more well-known jumps ever caught on film, the car flew over an 85-foot gorge in Thousand Oaks, California. The jump was so rough that the license plate came off in the air. A camera on a mount came loose, and Hasselhoff's leather jacket even flew off. 5 more episodes used that same shot. The cars didn't make it. And some of the stunt gear Jack Gill paid for those scenes with his body. He broke his neck once and his back twice. Today he walks with a titanium rod in his neck. 6 screws hold a plate in his neck in place. During one stunt, he had to push KITT out of the way of a semi moving at 50 miles per hour with only 3 inches of space between when the back wheels hit the ground. He had to put the car in drive lock. The wheels do a 180 and roar off. There were no fake walls or CGI, it was all real. Gill also taught Hasselhoff how to deal with real risks and pain. 4 weeks at Saga Speedway. Tight turns, full spins, fishtails, and sharp fast. After just a few episodes, Hasselhoff was driving like a pro, getting in and out quickly, sliding into frame. He couldn't do the jump scenes for besides making sure they were safe, he did almost everything else. There was still tension, though. Gill had set up a way to stay in charge of who got to drive the hero car. Hidden inside and drive the Kia T for scenes where it drives itself, but once Hasselhoff, "I've got the wheel," Hasselhoff would yell, "No, I'm not." From his seat, Gill would shoot back, "You hack." Gill joked, "The best I could hit him whenever I wanted from inside." That wasn't the only fight going on. On set, Hasselhoff had another competitor named William Daniels, who did the voice of KITT. Never met while filming, Daniels filmed his lines in a studio long. Fans of Still started to like KITT more than Michael after scenes were shot. Hasselhoff saw it and pushed NBC to give him more lines. He even used his contract to rewrite scripts. Daniels started to treat KITT better at the same time. He really looked out for the character like it was his own. Eventually, they met. Off camera, Hasselhoff was having a hard time at the Christmas party. Drinking began to affect the show. Film crew said that filming stopped at least once. 7 times in season 3 because he was so tired, which is a code word for producers had to work while they were drunk during the big 1984 episode Goliath Returns. In the mornings as he slowly got better. Years later, his ex-wife would say he was back then were already drinking a lot, and everyone saw it for themselves in 2007. When his daughter caught him shirtless and slurring his words while he was trying to eat, the person who told the world that one person can make a difference, I couldn't even make it through lunch. Then the pain came. In 1983, Randy, a 15-year-old boy with leukemia, went to the set. After Randy died, Hasselhoff got a letter from his parents, which shocked him. He began to Michael Knight wasn't just a job for him, it was a calling. Started to push NBC for more in-depth stories that weren't just about explosions. Values, but the stress of having to live up to that ideal image broke him. He said it almost killed him and that, "God's angels brought me to the brink of bad luck and death to get my attention." After Knight Rider got over in 1986, David Hasselhoff hit a wall. Not a real one, but the kind that you see in movies. When an actor plays a famous role that everyone knows them for, Michael Knight, the man who talked to a car, wasn't liked by Hollywood. Seeing him do anything else. He tried making movies, but they didn't do well. 1989, he was having trouble with his career in the US. People laughed when he brought up that slump was so bad that even Hasselhoff joked that he was better known for chatting with Kit than for acting. Pushed him to look somewhere that most American stars didn't bother with, Germany, and that's where he hit it big. In 1988, he put out a song called Looking for Freedom, was a cover of a German hit song in English, but its message touched people. People were desperate for something hopeful because East and West Germany were still split. The song went viral and stayed at it was number 1 in West Germany for 8 weeks in a row and stayed on the charts for 25 weeks. More than 500,000 copies were sold. By 1989, Hasselhoff wasn't just a German star, he was a symbol of the country. Those same years, he did a show on top of the Berlin Wall on New Year's Eve. In front of 500,000 people while wearing a flashing leather jacket and scarf, running away from fireworks, and singing his freedom song like it was a call to arms, but when he got back to the US, lost more ground. Then Baywatch came along. The show aired in 1989 and failed horribly. It came in at number 73. NBC ended 103 shows, and when the production company went out of business, most of the actors would have quit. Hasselhoff risked everything in 1991. He put his own money on the line and joined forces with others. With the people who made it and bought the rights. He became a star, but also the executive producer. Even more important, he negotiated a share of future profits. He was sure the deal would make him rich, and it did. Baywatch was a big hit in 1996, when more than 1.1 billion people watched it. Every week. That's 1 in 5 people on Earth at the time. The show translated into 44 languages and shown in 148 countries. It brought in more than $1 billion from syndication sales. Even the numbers on the viewers were shocking. About 65% of viewers were women. Many of them liked how the show had a mix of action, romance, and strong female leads. David Hasselhoff's Mitch Buchanan became a cultural icon in the read. All of these movies, like Shorts, The Rescue Boy, and Slow Motion Runs, are now classics. From 1989 to 2001, Hasselhoff was in 220 episodes. He quit before in the last season. They didn't kill him off, they just took away his character. Explosion under the water that left the door open. He came back in 2003 for Baywatch Hawaiian Wedding, playing a resurrected Mitch who can't remember what happened even when later, he tried to make fun of the character, but the red shorts kept following him around. Yet behind the scenes Hasselhoff was making a lot of money. He was making $100,000 an episode during the royalties were what made him money, not the show's prime time. He turned the franchise into a business that made $4 million a year after the show ended. Movies and a spin-off show called Baywatch Nights, which began as a detective show and then, for some reason, switched to supernatural stories to take advantage of the X-Files craze. Even though his wealth dropped from $100 million to he kept making about $10 million from Baywatch. The show was remastered in HD in 2018, which opened up new ways to make money. Brand wouldn't die, and while all of this was going on in America, Hasselhoff was a pop star in Europe from the 1980s to the late 1990s and kept that status. He put out 12 compilation albums and toured all the time, making appearances on German to balance his two lives. He did TV shows in arenas and crossed the Atlantic to do so. In 1990, he went on a freedom tour through Germany and Switzerland while still being the lead in Baywatch and working on production. He put out 4 compilation albums in 1995. His work schedule was crazy, but it kept his brand alive in both music and TV in the US. David Hasselhoff almost killed himself in early 2002, when he was a big star in Europe. By the time he went to the Betty Ford Center in California later that year, his body was in terrible shape. Scary confession, he said his blood alcohol level was the highest it had ever been. Filmed at the clinic, doctors said he should have died, but he wasn't. They had never seen anyone survive that level of danger, Hasselhoff said. Wasn't to get attention or fame. He wasn't playing the old Beverly Hills game of check. About going to rehab to save his face. He did it because he had to. Fame, pressure, and years of drinking too much had finally caught up with them. But this wasn't the start of his downfall. In 2001, he went to rehab, stayed for 8 days, then called a taxi and ran away. He didn't go. He went home and drank. That night ended with him passed out in a hospital bed. That really woke him up for the first time. He quickly checked himself back into rehab. After and told everyone he had a problem, but addiction doesn't go away that quickly. Then, on May 3, 2007, his 16-year-old daughter Taylor and recorded something that would always bother him while he was lying on the floor shirtless. Hasselhoff was so drunk in his Las Vegas hotel room that he could barely eat a cheeseburger. The video broke my heart, but not because of because of what his daughter said. You could hear her pleading, "You promise me you won't get drunk tonight." Okay, she wasn't lying. She had no choice but to be mean. She later said she filmed it to show him what he was like when he was drunk because he couldn't remember. More than 1 billion people eventually saw that video. It was one of the first things to go viral in internet, and for many, it was the first time they saw how far he'd fallen. Things got worse in July 2006, when he made a scene at Heathrow Airport after getting divorced from Pamela Bach. Refused to get on a flight to Los Angeles after being told he would. Said he was shaking, smelled like alcohol, and couldn't stand up straight. Staff wouldn't let him fly. He said he was upset about the divorce. They said it was because of antibiotics and that he chose to take a later flight. He got divorced that same day in Los Angeles, which was bad. Everything was being watched now. The divorce didn't end in court. Landed in the news in August 2006, court documents that were supposed to stay private were leaked by accident. The information was very explosive. Bach accused him of abuse and cheating while he was on cocaine. It was ugly and made the public wasn't just seeing him as a famous person who was having a hard time. Like a soap opera, they were seeing the worst parts of his life play out. When they got divorced, they got into a nasty fight over custody. At first, each parent got one daughter, Taylor, and stayed with her dad, and the other did the same with her mom. Had a restraining order filed by Pamela Bach against Hasselhoff, but it didn't last. They said it wasn't true, but the court told them to stay away from each other. The court then gave Hasselhoff full custody of both daughters a few months later. He used this fact years later to try to get lower alimony payments, which went from $21,000 to $10,000 a month. Despite all the pain, Hasselhoff began to see things more clearly by 2010. Something had changed. He stopped avoiding his past and started to laugh at it. During his Comedy Central roast, he even made fun of the famous steak video. He told interviewers that the roast helped him feel better. He wasn't proud of his past, but he was finally strong enough to talk about it. He said that God's angels helped him, put him on the verge of death to stop the spiritual awakening. He had almost killed himself, and they helped him face the truth. Getting back together with someone after being married to Catherine Hickland for 5 years. From 1984 to 1989, their wedding was even shown on an episode of Knight Rider. He met Pamela Bach a few months after his divorce. She had been in an episode of the show, but nothing happened. Later, they met again at a nightclub and got together. They got married in 1989 and had 2 daughters, Taylor and 1990, Haley in 1992, and they were married for 16 years. Hasselhoff didn't go on public dates for a while because of all the chaos, but in 2011 he started being with Hayley Roberts, a Welsh woman he met on Britain's Got Talent. They went out together for 7 years and got married in Italy in 2018.